Welcome back to Something in the Wilderness. My name's Steve, and each week I pick a song by Andrew McMahon from throughout his career and I talk about it. Today, I'm excited to welcome Mike Valdes from the Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes podcast.
Hey man, what's going on?
Mike's also an actor, a comedian, and a musician. The song we're discussing today is especially relevant because over 5 years ago, Mike posted a cover of it on his YouTube channel. We'll touch on that, his fandom over the music of Andrew McMahon, and of course, we'll have a song discussion about one of the most, if not the most, popular song in the catalog among fans. Mike, welcome to the show.
Of course. Thank you for having me. This is an honor.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am basically just an all-around performer. So I am a professional actor, singer-songwriter, stand-up comedian, bunch of different things. I would say that I basically do a little bit of all three of those things, essentially. I have a musical project called Mike Valdes and the Noise, and that is the band that I've had for maybe 10 years, something like that, back in the MySpace days and all that stuff. I mean, I went through a name change and everything, but I used to be called On the Contrary, and that was back when bands were one person, like the Rocket Summer and the Almost and things like that. So I was like, even though it's just me, I'm going to be On the Contrary. And then I just changed it to my name, because it just makes it so much easier to understand. And I've been acting professionally for maybe about that time as well, 10 to 15 years, something like that. And then I just started stand-up about 6 years ago. So yeah, I just love performing.
Can you tell us how you got into stand-up comedy?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I feel like performing is kind of a 20-sided die. They're very similar, but there are a few things that are different. The thing that I always like to say is there is a benefit to being a singer-songwriter and also a con to being a singer-songwriter, just like there's a pro and a con to being a comedian or an actor. The benefit to being a musician is that when you play a show, everyone is usually going to respect whatever it is that you're playing and clap and, do whatever it is. The con is that you can play the same song for 6 years and never realize you wrote a bad song.
Okay.
And in stand-up comedy, you will find out immediately if that joke doesn't work.
I bet, yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of the thing that I always like to say. And really, stand-up it's all kind of acting because we're all putting characters on and we're all putting faces,
sure,
and how we want the world to perceive us and things like that, even though it's not who we always are,
Well, I just found it fascinating because everything that you do are things that I enjoy watching or listening to. Like I love comedy and I love listening to podcasts and I love music, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
You're doing the Lord's work, in my opinion.
Thank you. Yes, I just think it's so cool. And then speaking of your podcast, so
yeah,
the reason I knew you'd fit in real well here is because the first 2 episodes of your podcast, when I started listening to it, you mentioned Andrew McMahon in both of them, so I was like, oh, this guy's going to fit in just fine here. So.
I mean, if you only listen to the first 2, at this point we have over 50 episodes.
Right.
You're going to hear that name at least 50 more times. He's one of my go-to guys. And then I just became, not obsessed, because obsessed is a word that I've learned is much more powerful through Netflix documentaries than I thought. but I'm basically a really big nerd about everything that he does. Like I just I need to know everything down to like what piano he used on this recording, all these different kinds of things. And usually I do my best in like digging all that stuff through interviews or whatever.
So I think we have a few things in common there.
Yeah.
Definitely in relation to consuming Andrew McMahon music.
Yeah, of course.
Was there a specific song or an album that introduced you to Andrew or maybe really got you hooked?
It's kind of a funny story, but I have to kind of give you a background about my life in order for this story to make any sense. I grew up in a very conservative Christian home, so I wasn't allowed to listen to many things that weren't like praise music or like Christian music or anything like that. And I remember this was back in the day of like when you could go to Best Buy and every CD was $10.
I remember those days.
Yeah, and they had a huge selection. And I remember going there, and also this was a time when you bought a record because of the cover. You had no idea what it sounded like, and if you didn't like that record, you took a $10 loss. You know,
Yeah, you couldn't preview it.
Exactly. You could not
unless they had one of
preview
those
it.
listening stations, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like that was like your form of like stocks as a kid, was like buying a record and being like, I mean, I guess this looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I remember seeing a band called Newfound Glory, and I knew they weren't a Christian band, but I convinced my mom that they were Christian because their band name sounds Christian.
Yeah.
And then basically through that, I was like, I love this band. And then I started like analyzing everything. And then I saw this logo that said Drive Through Records. And I was like, okay, what is Drive Through Records? And then I went through all of their catalog and found something corporate through there. And then I went through from not the very beginning, not Audio Boxer, but I basically started with Leaving Through the Window.
Yeah.
That was my first album that I ever listened to of theirs.
Were you hooked from the beginning, or was it
100%?
Yeah, okay.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I was in from the beginning. I believe I saw the video. The only thing I had seen was the video of If You See Jordan, which granted, looking back at it now is very angsty and, just all these different kinds of things. But when you're 13, you're like, yeah, this is a great song.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Oh, they're in high school. They're tearing up the place,
Yeah, they're tearing up the place. Like, their girls are dancing on the piano. These are all dreams that you have when you're 13,
Right.
like, and things that will never happen. And so, yeah, I just thought it was so interesting that Andrew brought a piano into punk rock.
Right.
And I know that he was he's talked about it before, where he kind of feels like this kind of like, I guess, black sheep kind of, because
like he
it's
didn't
just,
really fit there, right?
Right, like he never fit in. It was like a square peg in a round hole. But I personally think that that's the reason why that band succeeded.
I think you're right. They brought something new to the genre. And other bands have followed in their footsteps.
100%. In fact, ironically so, Newfound Glory's fourth record sounded like something corporate.
Oh yeah, with the introduction of piano and more
Yeah.
pop elements. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, Coming Home is basically a something corporate album.
I never thought of it that way. Now I need to go back and listen to that again. And I do love that album.
I love it too.
I'm not sure how the majority of Newfound Glory fans see it, since it is so different from the rest of their stuff.
I remember when the album came out, they hated it. And then 5 years later, they were like, actually, we were wrong.
Yeah.
Which, like, that's how it always happens. Like, we were
Right.
talking about this before, but that's what happened with North, with Something Corporate's North. Like, majority of their fans were like, this is different. This is soft. I don't like it. And then 5 years later, everyone's like, we made a huge mistake.
Right.
This is the best album of all time.
Right. And with Something Corporate, it may have had to do with the fact that Something Corporate went away, at least for a while, and then continued to go away, again after their short reunion. But yeah, and maybe it was hey, I should have given that more of a chance. Wow, now that I've given it a chance, it is amazing, and it's their final send off as a band.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. That's my favorite album of all time.
Yeah.
So
it's up there for me. It's top 5.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an amazing album.
Mhm.
And then from Leaving Through the Window on, I was into it, and I got like really heavy into it. Like I was looking on eBay for demos, and I was like getting Japanese releases of
Right.
albums because they had a different song on them.
Right.
All kinds of stuff. I have absolutely everything. Like, in fact, I've been lucky enough to meet Andrew a couple of times, and I've had him autograph a few of these things, and he's just like, where did you find this?
That's so cool. You
Yeah.
surprise even him as a fan.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got to say, it's nice to find other fans like yourself.
Of course, yeah.
I've had a few on the show already, which has been awesome, and it's always nice to connect with more fans, especially ones that are as passionate as I am about listening to Andrew music, and like you said, kind of nerding out about Andrew.
Oh yeah, likewise.
So as I mentioned, the song we're discussing today is pretty much the top song among fans, I would say. If you ask someone who's not that familiar with the name Andrew McMahon, but's a fan of music in general, they'd probably come up with maybe some of the Wilderness singles that came out recently. But I bet if you polled a group of Andrew fans, I think many of them would say that Dark Blue is the top song in the catalog. Would you agree to that?
100%. Absolutely.
And we'll get into more of that, why that might be. Since Jack's Mannequin didn't have a huge hit single at any point in their career that, dominated the airwaves and that the general public was very familiar with. Like someone say Newfound Glory would be a good example of that.
Right.
Of course, the band is Jack's Mannequin. The song Dark Blue is track 6 from Everything in Transit, released on August 23rd, 2005. It is featured as well on the deluxe edition of Everything in Transit and also on the Live at the El Rey DVD and CD. Dark Blue was released as the third single on the album, I believe, almost a year after the album came out in June 2006. And then they made a music video that July of 2006. And have you seen the video, Mike?
I have.
Yeah. And I hadn't seen it until this year. I don't know. Somehow it just got away from my radar. I don't think I was watching music videos in that decade, honestly. Like it was kind of I don't know if it was pre-YouTube, but it was pre-YouTube being kind of the go-to for anything.
Right.
And it was post my own MTV days. So
Mm-hmm.
I think everything that came out in that decade, I haven't seen until more recently, but it's pretty cool. There's a dance, for those who don't know, there's a dance competition out on the Venice Beach Pier. And I guess it's supposed to be in 1950 or so. And all the dancers are dancing until they're too exhausted to dance anymore. And then the second to last couple finally falls. And then the final couple wins. Do you have any thoughts on what the meaning behind that is, or?
Yeah, I do actually. I'm gonna say my like funny like comedy thoughts first, and then I'm gonna give you like my actual heartfelt thoughts on what this video is about.
Sure.
There's something that I noticed when watching it recently. The contest goes for about 51 days or something.
Oh, really? I didn't realize it went that long.
Could you imagine listening to the same song for 51 days straight?
No.
Let me say this, and let me say this. Could you imagine playing the same song 51 days?
It sounds like torture.
Yeah, it is literally, it's like Jack's Mannequin was essentially the Star Wars Cantina band. Like they only knew one song.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
They only knew one song, and like that's it's, and there's a lot of great things in it. There's a cameo from Tommy Lee, which is great, especially if you're a nerd that knows that he played on the album.
Right.
There's a lot of cool stuff, but my personal thought from when looking at it now, because it is so easy to watch that video and be like, I mean, it looks cool. Mm-hmm. They all have slick back pompadours, and Bobby Raw looks like Buddy Holly.
Yeah.
It looks great. They have a stand-up bass, like everyone's dancing. But when you really look into it and think about the song and how about the song is about a relationship that's kind of deteriorating, you notice in the video when they first start, everyone's extremely excited.
Yeah.
And then by the end, everyone is kind of dying out. And even so that the very last 4 people are one girl is almost completely on the floor, but a guy is holding on to her.
Yeah, he's still trying to keep her up.
I think that is all explanations for relationships.
Right.
Where you jump into a relationship, you're so excited, and then sometimes there's one person that is just dying to get out, but you're holding on. Mm-hmm. You're holding on for absolute dear life. And then, in fact, the couple that loses, they jump into the river afterwards. And that is basically, to me, what that meant was like, it doesn't matter that we won, we have each other. So let's just go through this together. Let's go through this like, to use an Andrew McMahon verb, let's swim through this. Mm-hmm. That's basically my thought. I could be completely wrong, but that's what I thought.
I had a similar idea. I'm actually, you were
Yeah.
able to put that into words better than I would have been able to. So I really appreciate it. I just that's kind of along the lines of what I was thinking with the trying to hold on to that relationship. And I even thought of maybe looking around and a lot of couples around you are breaking up, and you're still trying to hold on even though you can't much longer.
Yeah, and even the reverse. There's couples that look like they're having a great old time, and you're just dead inside.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, great thoughts.
Yeah.
So a little bit of production notes here, background notes on the song. In May of 2005, Andrew announced on his Jack's Mannequin blog that they were delaying the release of the Transit album from July into August because he decided to record one more song from the album. And it was, of course, Dark Blue, the last song he recorded for the album. This one was written solely by Andrew. He stated that usually the last song he writes for an album is to more or less wrap up an album. So this was the culminating song at the end. So I'm going to read a quote from that blog post. "I'm equally anxious for everyone to hear the final album, and I wouldn't have done this if I didn't feel it was of the utmost importance." So, Mike, when you first heard Everything in Transit 15 years ago, was this a standout track for you?
Man, that it definitely was, but when it comes to the album Everything in Transit, it is so difficult to talk about just one song.
I completely agree with you.
It's a complete album.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that is on that album makes the album what it is. And that's why it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a song out, the album isn't the same.
Right. So it's amazing to think that they almost put this record out without Dark Blue on it.
Right, which is
Can you imagine?
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Dark Blue it's funny because like the hipster in me is like, man, I don't like that song that much, because it's everybody's favorite song, and you always want to like the song that not as many people know, like the deep cuts, because you're like a weird, hipster about it.
Right.
But man, I gotta tell you, I've seen Andrew a little over 30 times.
That's crazy.
And I've seen, and dude, I know when they do an intro to Dark Blue, and immediately when I know they're in the key, I'm like, he's doing Dark Blue. I know. Like, I can hear the drums, I can hear all this stuff, and everybody's just going crazy because he's doing a piano solo and he's doing all these things, and I'm like, dude, it's like being able to see, it's like being able to see someone get hit by like a tornado or something from like a mile away.
Yeah.
And you're like, you have no idea what's about to come to you right now, and then the moment he hits those notes, the dun na 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 na, the place goes nuts. And dude, I am the loudest girl in there. Like, like I've seen it so many times, and I know what he's gonna do, but it gets me every time, Steve. It's so good.
Yeah, and it's the concerts, it's the times I've seen that in concert that remind me of how huge that song is among the fan base. And sometimes I forget, because I thought it would be a different answer than yours, but I have a pretty similar answer. No, it wasn't a standout track when that album came out, because I listened to the album all the way, so CD, I listened to the CD all the way through every time, and that was just part of it. It was right there with La 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 and Miss Delaney, and it's just part of the set, and I like the song just as much as the others, but it wasn't. I can honestly think of 7 or 8 songs on the album that if I go track by track, I like a little better. But you're right, when he plays it in concert, it is the best song of all time.
Oh yeah, it's the best. It is. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world that is going to be the song that he plays for the rest of his life.
Right.
And I'm so glad, and I'm sure he agrees with me, I'm so glad it's that and not Constantine.
Yeah. I think he's glad too.
Yeah. He seems pretty happy about that.
In fact, it's not only special to the fans, he has stated in multiple interviews that it's his favorite song he's ever written. Did you know that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I did know that. I was actually going to tell you that before you said it.
Yeah, and he's also said that he knew it would be the cornerstone of the album, and that's why he put it directly smack dab in the middle. So it's track 6 on an 11-track album. Yeah,
That's
and so that's
smart.
like, the culminating track. It's the cornerstone. I was amazed to find out that this song didn't go gold until 8 years after the album was released. But
I know, right? That's kind of insane because it, especially for the time that it was released, it was like, it was what was popular
yeah,
at the time.
yeah,
So it like makes no sense that it wasn't everywhere. Like it didn't flood. Like I know it got some TV play, which is great, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But for how big that song is and how like radio friendly that song is, it's kind of insane that it was kind of the least heard single, unless you were like of the fan base, really.
right.
Yeah,
it's a great pop song. Let's face it. It's got all the elements, and I know it's like a lot of fans. It's one of my wife's favorite Andrew McMahon songs of all time. And I asked her why. Just earlier today, I said, "All right, honey, why is it one of the best songs of his of all time?" And she said, I don't know, it's catchy, it's poppy. I just love to sing along. It makes me feel good, which I think describes it pretty well, and why we all get so into it when we see it played in concert as well.
Yeah, and there's something so ironic about how so many great singable pop songs have the saddest lyrics.
Right.
Like, have you actually read the lyrics to 1,000 Miles by Vanessa Carlton? Like, it's really sad, and it's hard to imagine Terry Crews dancing to it.
Wow. No, I don't think I have. I love that song. I don't think I've ever read the lyrics.
Yeah, I mean, it's, not to go off into a crazy tangent here, but, she literally says, it's always times like these when I think of you and I wonder if you ever think of me, because everything's so wrong and I don't belong living in your precious memory. So it's just like, wow.
Heartbreaking.
Wow, man. Like, what did that guy do to you?
Yeah. Well,
so
heartbreak is a common theme in pop music. So I guess it makes for good songwriting, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is maybe why this whole album works so well.
Yes, agreed.
We know that Jim Wirt, of course, produced it as he did the rest of the Transit album. It's funny. I don't know if this has come up in your Facebook timeline, if you do Facebook or whatever, but I've had this ad appear the last 3 or 4 weeks. It's an ad. It has the Audio Boxer EP, and it says, "Have Jim Wirt produce your next record." And it's so funny because it's like, I know my phone's listening to me because I say Jim Wirt in just about every episode.
That's so funny, man. Yeah. Holy cow. That's that's really scary too.
Facebook's picking up on the things I'm putting out. So
I definitely haven't had that, but I do know that Jim Wirt has produced a lot of records that I absolutely adore.
Oh yeah.
Like I know that he produced Something Corporate, he produced Jack's Mannequin. I know he produced a band that I love called The Morning Of. He's produced many, many cool piano pop bands, which is really cool.
Makes sense. I mean, it sounds like his forte, right?
Of course, yeah, which has always been my dream. For the listener, my music is very similar to that of Jack's Mannequin or Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness, and so it makes me want to work with someone like Jim Wirt. So that's like a dream producer to have, at some point.
So going back to the subject of him playing this in concert, according to Setlist FM, he's played this song live 651 times.
Holy cow.
I was like, has he played it in every single concert since that album came out? And when I did the math, I realized that no, that can't be. But it's an average of 46 times a year pre-pandemic. So
that's crazy.
I'd say it's quite a lot. I mean, he doesn't even tour fully all year, every year, of course. So that's quite a few shows he's played it at. Average of 46 times a year, 651 total. And that's between the Jack's Mannequin era, the solo Andrew McMahon shows in between, and even more recently, and then all of the Wilderness era as well.
Right.
But I was surprised to find that only a little over 200 of them were Jack's Mannequin era.
Wow.
And over 400 of them were since. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
That is really interesting for sure. Holy cow.
But I do think maybe he tours more in the last 6 years than he did during Jack's Mannequin. I'm not sure about that, but that's my thought on it.
Okay, that is possible.
Could be. But for the reunion tours, I think they might have also been, or let's say the 10th anniversary tour, all those times were also counted as Jack's Mannequin. 2015, things like that. So there's some technicalities there, I guess.
Okay.
But even if you take out the 5 live streams he played, not in front of a live audience, it's still nearly 650 times. So that's quite a lot. Again, just more evidence that it's a fan favorite and one of the biggest songs in his catalog. I know you've mentioned you've seen Andrew in concert a few times, right? That's 30,
Yeah,
you said?
just a few.
Yeah. So do you have any kind of favorite moments of seeing him live?
Oh my gosh, man.
I'm sure you have a few, right?
Yeah, I do. I love moments where he will play a song and then kind of talk about the song a little bit for a second.
Yeah.
And there was a tour that he did called the Hammers and Strings Tour, I believe. And I went and I saw him in Atlanta, and it was a really small area, a really small venue, and he played the opening to Kavanaugh Park, and then he said he basically just sang like the first line right before "Nothing's Gonna Blow Me Away," and he stops and says, "You know, when we were recording this song, our producer thought that it would be really hilarious to put an echo on my voice. So he would singleize my voice and just play it after lunch, and it would just go, 'Nothing's gonna blow me, blow me, blow me, blow me, blow me.'" and then he did that and then just went back into the song, and I was like, yes, dude, that is like, that's like, it's like a funny moment, but it's also like a little tidbit into the recording process that I like. Of course, seeing Something Corporate was like the reunion show, because I never got to see them live.
Oh, you saw the reunion show.
Yeah, I never got to see them live when they were when they were active, because I mean, let's face it, like my parents weren't gonna let me do that.
Right.
You know, like they weren't gonna let me go to a show with like where there was alcohol and all these different things, and I was underage. But yeah, I went to I went and I saw the reunion show. They played at House of Blues, which is at Disney World. Yeah, that was a great moment, being able to see them. Another big standout moment as well is I don't know if it was the first show back, but it was right after he survived cancer and started touring the record officially. And he did Everything in Transit full, like from front to back, and then did a few covers. At the end, did American Girl by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, With or Without You by U2, a few different covers, which were great. I guess the most recent concert that I saw, I wasn't able to see the Upside Down Flowers tour because he didn't come anywhere near where I could go.
That was a great show.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. I love the record, and I would have loved to see how he did it visually, because my favorite tour he's ever done with Wilderness, I would actually say my favorite show ever that he's done, was the Zombies on Broadway tour. That production was just outstanding. I don't know did you get to see that tour?
I saw him at a festival, so it probably wasn't the same setup.
Okay.
Because of how quickly they need to get the stage set up and taken down.
Of course, yeah. I mean, they probably did a few things, like the tarp with synesthesia.
Yep.
You know, the giant rubber ducky.
Yep, he did that. Oh, it was a great it was a great venue for that, because it was a huge field with thousands of people mashed together.
So for ours, I mean, this is just to put the whole floaty thing or whatever. He goes, you know, J-Mac, is it J-Mac that plays drums for him?
Yep.
Yeah, he goes, J-Mac has never been able to get on the rubber ducky, so we're going to put his drum set on the rubber ducky.
No way.
And he's going to play this. I think they were playing La La La, and he was like, he's going to play the song, and you guys are going to take him all the way, and this was at Disney World, so he was like, you're going to take him all the way to the bar, and then bring him all the way back, and then I'm going to come in a huge Pegasus. And so sure enough, they put the drum set on.
Unbelievable.
They were all while they were still playing the bridge to La La La, and they put the drum set in, and then J-Mac went while he was playing the drums, and then Andrew comes in on a giant Pegasus, just all around. I have video of it, because we were literally on the like underneath the balcony where the bar was, and he made it all the way to the bartender, gave the bartender a high five, and then went all the way back. I mean, it was nuts. It was hilarious, man. And then when they did Dead Man's Dollar, which is probably my favorite Wilderness song,
Cool.
right at the first, oh, wow, you know, like, I want to make a, like, right then,
leading into the chorus,
the screen drops, and there was a giant screen with a astronaut helmet on it. And there was video behind it to make it look like there were people inside of the astronaut helmet. So you would see video of Andrew singing at, like, if he was an astronaut, like singing so close and like all these different, I just thought it was such a cool production wise.
Yeah.
Which is why I was like, man, if he does Upside Down Flowers, he's got to top that. And that's got to be incredible, you know?
Yeah.
So
some great concert memories there.
Yeah.
So what you said about you like when Andrew talks about the songs that he's written on stage. That's what I appreciated so much about those Instagram live streams he did throughout quarantine. And you know, he played Dark Blue 3 different times on different live streams. And one I rewatched this morning, it was a cocktail hour. I'm sitting at like 10 a.m. on a Sunday watching this cocktail hour with Andrew McMahon mixing cocktails. But he called one of the drinks he made Dark Blue, and then he played Punk Rock Princess, and then he played Dark Blue afterward. But it's just as powerful when he plays it on just him and a piano as it is with a full band to me. So
of course,
it's amazing.
I completely agree.
Yeah. But I thought it was funny also how looking at Andrew back then, I don't know if you remember what he looked like at the beginning of those live streams. He kind of looked how the rest of us felt at the time.
Sure.
Like all disheveled and, you know, he had the long beard and then he, you know, surprised a lot of people and cut his hair and shaved the beard after a while. But when he started doing those concerts, so.
There comes a time where I guess as a performer, you're like, well, this is all we got. So I'm going to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know? Got to start wearing pants to Zoom meetings.
Yeah. Yep.
You know?
We all figured that out. So a few notes on his songwriting. He stated in a June 2006 interview that Dark Blue, and I quote, "Dark Blue is essentially about the 8 or 9 months my girlfriend, well, now my fiance, were apart. It's basically the culmination of everything we went through and how we got back together. It's a very emotional song for me. But I also learned while I was rewatching that Cheese Plate and Cocktails Instagram that he did, that he said even though he knew he had found the person he loved in Kellyanne, he felt this need to get out in the world, you know, kind of unattached to anyone or anything during the time that he was writing this album. You know, he was out touring with something corporate, and he had this dream that he was out in the middle of an immense storm, and a large tidal wave came out onto the beach and pulled him out to sea. And in the middle of the storm was him and Kelly. He also mentioned that writing the song actually helped bring them back together.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
It's so crazy because by far the bridge of that song is my favorite part of the song.
Oh, yeah.
It is just so powerful.
Yeah. Hits you right in the heart.
It hits you so hard, man. And when you watch it live, I'm not even going to lie to you. I cry every time when they play that live.
Yeah, I might get a little misty-eyed.
Because it hits, dude.
Yeah.
It hits. It hits hard. And those lyrics, man, I mean, I'm getting chills just thinking about them, man.
Right.
I mean, those lyrics are so good. And then hearing that was a dream that he had, as much as he says it in interviews and he's like, oh, I know it's so cheesy or whatever. And I'm like, no, dude, the fact that you had that dream makes this way cooler.
Yeah.
Because you basically translated that dream into a song.
Right.
The lyric of we're boxing the stars and, you know, the storm is coming in and there's nothing we can do. Like, you know, it's this might inevitably fail, man. Like this might be awful, but
yeah, I'm
still here, you know, and it's
the whole town's underwater.
Right. The whole town's underwater but I'm still here. And there's something, the musicality of the bridge, just adding tension makes you listen to those lyrics much more closely. Oh yeah. Because of the tension. Right. There's that build of guitar. Yeah. It gets more and more intense and then it just drops off with that last line. Exactly. So much feeling there. Oh yeah, it's so good. Yeah. Love it. So let's talk a little bit about the sound of it anyway. Yeah, of course. Like we've talked about earlier, it's a really great song for right in the middle of the album. And this album is like North to me in that it's what we talked about earlier. It's a full album, start to finish. It's hard to listen to each
different part of it without wanting to listen to the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
It has this consistent feel to it and sound to it. Why do you think, from the sound of it, why do you think that Dark Blue is so popular among the fans?
I mean, you can put that song in a movie trailer. You can put it literally anywhere, and it works.
Or in a TV show, as we'll talk about.
Yeah, in a TV show, exactly. You can put it literally anywhere, and it just works.
Yeah, I think it was a really good example of Andrew's vocal range, which he demonstrates that on a lot of songs, but his vocal range just goes all over the place on that song, which I really enjoy. And then that scaling piano, I think it's that swooning sound. If some people would say it's just catchy, like my wife, I don't know if some people would say it's sexy. I don't know, but it's something about that. It's just, it really catches your ear.
It is something that he has mastered, and it's something that I learned from him. If you listen to my music, especially now that I'm telling you, the cat's out of the bag, but he's basically like the reason why I play piano the way that I play it.
Okay.
Because he does these little things where in all reality, if you play music, they're not that hard. But when you listen to it, you're just like, oh my gosh, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
And he is just the master of that.
Yeah. As a non-musician, I when I hear things like that, I think, oh my gosh, I wish I could make that sound somehow, but I get to listen to it, so that's good enough for me.
That is very true. Yeah.
So I know you're a super passionate Andrew fan like I am, but what about this song encouraged you to cover it then?
I don't like to karaoke cover songs, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I like to put my own pizzazz into songs.
Okay.
So, like, for example, when I do the cover, I change the way that I sing it. And, it's in the same key, but I do different vocal registers than he does, just because I feel like really great covers are covers that do the song complete justice, but also remind you that you're listening to a different band.
So recently, Mike did a re-recording of his Dark Blue cover, only this time with a piano. This is a Something in the Wilderness podcast exclusive. So let's give it a listen, Mike.
Yeah.
Expect under this condition, so I'll wait for the ambulance to come pick us up off the floor. What could you possibly expect under this condition? So slow down. This night's a perfect shade of dark blue, dark blue. Have you ever been alone in a crowded room while I'm here with you? I said the world burning down, dark blue, dark blue. Have you ever been alone in a crowded room while I'm here with you? I said the world could be burning till there's nothing but dark blue, dark blue. And this flood is slowly rising up, swallowing the ground beneath my feet. Tell me how anybody thinks under this condition. So I'll swim as the water rises up, sun is sinking down, and now all I can see are the planets in a row, suggesting it's best that I slow down, 'cause this night's a brilliant shade of dark blue, dark blue. Have you ever been alone in a crowded room while I'm here with you? I said the world could be burning up, burning down, dark blue, dark blue. Have you ever been alone in a crowded room while I'm here with you? I said the world could be
Wow, thanks so much, Mike. I do love a good cover.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I can tell that you're not just a passionate musician, but a passionate Andrew fan as well. That's great.
Here's a little story time. My senior year, that album came out, my senior year in high school, and we went to New York City, and I went to Virgin Megastore, which is no longer in existence. And I went to their vinyl section, and the very first actual vinyl record that I ever bought in my entire life was Jack's Mannequin's Everything in Transit.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, that looks very different from the CD.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of those things that Andrew was like, "Where did you find that?"
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Because there were only a couple hundred made.
Oh my gosh.
And for some strange reason, I didn't know how rare it was. And I bought it, and it's in perfect condition. I love it to pieces. And of course, I've just to let you know, I've bought the same record many times. This is the remastered version. This is the 10-year anniversary dark blue variant.
Wow.
I have so much. I feel like I'm the reason why that guy has a house, but
See, I've just finished the full CD collection recently, so that was good enough for me.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten into the vinyl yet.
For me, I was like, I need the vinyl, I need the CD, I need the shirts, I need all that.
You are a super fan. There's no denying that. All right, let's talk a little bit of lyrics here.
Yeah, let's do it.
We've already talked a little bit about what inspired Andrew to write these lyrics, so let's talk about some of them. Did you know that the original lyric of Dark Blue was actually Black and Blue? Had you ever heard that before?
Was it really? I did not know that.
Yeah, he mentioned it in the Jack's Mannequin blog, which I've taken to reading this past year, of course.
Yeah.
And I definitely think Dark Blue is the better way to go, because if you try to sing Black and Blue in your mind, it just doesn't sound right. Probably because it's not what we know.
Yeah.
His reasoning was, he already had a song called Bruised on the album, and he didn't want to go back to that theme. So, of being black and blue, so it was more like dark blue as in a feeling. So
interesting.
Yeah,
that is very, very interesting.
Yeah. Are there specific lyrics that hold meaning to you? You mentioned the bridge earlier.
Yeah. I would say the bridge is probably the best part of the song, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And there is something that you might not hear it unless you really listen closely.
Mm-hmm.
But in the chorus itself, he says, dark blue, have you ever been alone in a crowded room when I'm here with you? And then the second time he says it, he says, well, I'm here with you.
Oh, well, I'm here with you.
Yeah. So he's like, have you ever been alone in a crowded room? Well, actually, I'm here with you.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought was so interesting. And it's so crazy how that album is 15 years old and I'm still learning new things about that song.
Yeah. I think that's probably the most referenced line among fans, at least in this song, I mean. And I think it's because it's such a relatable emo line. I mean,
yeah,
haven't we all felt that way?
These lyrics can be so interpreted in so many ways, like positively, in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
It could be perceived as like, well, this is never going to work out. See ya. And then,
right.
But it also, you can listen to it and be like, man, yeah, you're right. We're hitting a really, really tough patch right now, but I want to fix this.
Yeah.
Even though you feel like you're alone, I'm still here. I'm still fighting.
Yeah. So
let's do this thing. There's just so much beauty in it, and it's so difficult to forget that beauty when you're listening to it because it's so poppy and because it's so danceable and sing out loudable, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But
what you said about the different interpretations makes me wonder if Kelly and Andrew had never gotten back together, would we hear this song differently?
Yeah, I wonder.
It'd be a breakup song instead of a true love song.
Yeah, that is very true. And in all reality, I feel like the song may have also stayed the same.
Yeah. Because
I feel like you can get both out of that song, which again, all the best songwriters write like this, where they write in this way where it can be literally about anything and it's personal enough, but it isn't super personal, so that way you can't see yourself in it.
Right.
You know, which is why it's a perfect pop song.
Yeah, you're right. That's what makes a great pop song. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yep. So regarding his dream about the water, he says, "This flood is slowly rising up, swallowing the ground beneath my feet. Tell me how anybody thinks under this condition. So I'll swim as the water rises up. The sun is sinking down." I remember the moment you sang, I remember from your version, I remember the moment you sang those lyrics, because I had never noticed water rises up, sun is sinking down until you sang it the way you did. And I was in it.
Yeah.
I love that lyric right there.
That's amazing. Man.
Yeah.
I love that lyric too. Thank you for the compliment, by the way.
Yeah.
That means a lot. And he loves talking about elements in songs. Like he loves it. Like everything has to do with water, space, you know, dirt, you know, like
Sure.
all kinds of just different kinds of, different kinds of elements, and I feel like as much as he is the master of writing a catchy piano riff that you can't get out of your head and you can't explain why it's the greatest thing you've ever heard, he's also the master of the callback in lyrics.
Yeah.
Where he, like, swimming is something that is commonly said in the Jack's Mannequin catalog.
Oh, yeah.
Even talking about the color blue is a callback in many ways. This is something that I was just thinking about a few days ago because I was playing the songs on my piano, and the riff to Dark Blue is She Paints Me Blue backwards. So
that's amazing.
Literally,
See, I never would have known that. As a non-musician, we can't figure that stuff out, but that is so cool.
Yeah, it's literally the same piano riff backwards. It's in a different key in the recording, so it does sound different. However, when he plays Dark Blue live now, he steps it down, so it's actually in the same key as She Paints Me Blue now.
All right.
But in the original recording, I believe it's in the key of D, so it's She Paints Me Blue is in the key of C. But this is literally for no one. But
I'm interested. Keep talking.
Okay. So I was just playing through them and I was like, holy cow, that is so cool. And then that made this whirlwind of thoughts where it's like, who knows if it was intentional or anything, but it's like, it is kind of funny that it's She Paints Me Blue and then Dark Blue. I know that he wrote She Paints Me Blue for Kellyanne when they were in a relationship, and he was like talking about how much he loves her. The song is, you're my good feeling. I'm kneeling. She paints me blue. And the reason why she paints him blue, he told this story at a live show, I believe, that when he wrote that song, he wrote it in the studio basement of their apartment or their house or something like that. And there was only one blue light bulb. So everything in the room was blue. So that's why he said She Paints Me Blue.
Oh, that's cool.
So my thought is like, so what does dark blue mean? Dark blue now means like you painted me blue, but now there's darkness in this relationship.
Right.
So whether this was intentional, I have no idea. I'm just saying something as a mega fan here, but
yeah,
there is something really cool about that,
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if his second to last single that came out in the summer of 2020, Get on My Wave, he states, I paint myself blue. So it makes me wonder how that lyric plays into, and if it's part of it. Is it a trilogy? I know that's what some people online were asking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, more than likely, I would assume that what that lyric means is like, I'm putting on this facade for you. Like I'm a performer for you, There you go. That's my thought again. That's the beautiful thing about lyrics is like, we can all have opinions and they could all be wrong, but
True.
Like at the end of the day, it could just be a song about his dog and we don't even know,
No, that's Doris Day.
Yeah, that is true. That is Doris Day.
Yeah. He's literally done that.
Yes.
So we kind of already covered this, but would you say you said your favorite part of the song is the bridge?
100%.
Yeah, same here.
It's the best musically for me. And because that tension builds so well, it makes the lyrics that much more important.
Oh yeah, and I'm just gonna read the lyrics to that part of the song. And then the water reached the west coast and took the power lines, and it was me and you. This could last forever, and the whole town underwater. There was nothing we could do. I love that part. It's so powerful. Again, the build of the guitar, and then that just kind of drop off.
Well, and also the vocal harmonies that you're hearing, like the little choir a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, is that Andrew's voice? Do you know?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
I
Yeah,
figured. It sounds like him.
It's a mixture, I believe, of Andrew, Bobby Raw, and J Mac.
Okay.
All together.
Yeah.
And yeah, they did the oohs and ahs. You know, I think for the whole record, like with all the different harmonies, especially for Holiday from Real and things like that. Which
Right.
I don't know if you ever heard this, but he came out with a Holiday EP at some point and just released it for free and did an all a cappella version of Holiday from Real, and it was just the three of them singing the song, and it's beautiful.
Oh, I'd love to get my ears on that.
I'm sure it's online. He released it for free forever ago.
Okay.
I'm sure it's available somewhere.
Well, I'll be searching it.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah. So speaking of other versions of songs, so fortunately for fans, there's because it's so popular, there's several versions out there of Dark Blue online.
Yeah.
I said it's featured on the Live at the El Rey CD and DVD. Plenty of live versions out on YouTube, including the El Rey version, actually.
Yeah.
And then I fell in love with the version they did with the string arrangement in November at both the Dear Jack Foundation concert and the Live Unlock session. The electric guitar in the entire song became an acoustic guitar and the strings, and it was so powerful. But what I also equally love about that version is the female backing vocals.
Yeah.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Maybe there should have always been female backing vocals on Andrew's music, because Morgan, the violinist, keyboardist, backing vocalist who's on those tracks for those concerts, and I believe she's a permanent member of the band now, just amazing. What she makes those songs into with those little things is just so cool. So she does the backing vocals on that song and makes the bridge all the more powerful, in my opinion.
Yeah, which it's interesting that you say that he should always have a female background vocalist. I definitely agree with you in that it always adds to the music so well. In the Live in El Rey DVD, he has a female vocalist on stage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is so strange that he didn't think to incorporate it in the actual recording. I mean, I know that the DVD is supposed to be like basically Jack Spanikin's farewell. You know, that's like their send-off. It's their last show ever. So, I mean, Matt Thiessen from Reliant K is on there because he wrote a lot of the People and Things album and with Andrew. And, a bunch of different people are just there playing instruments and singing. And he's always had this kind of music that goes well with a female background vocalist.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a few fun facts for you. This song, along with the mixtape, was featured on the show One Tree Hill in early 2006. I did find out that it was Kelly's favorite show at the time.
It was.
When he found out that he got that gig, they kind of looked at each other like, oh my God, Jack's Mannequins made it now. Like, One Tree Hill, are you kidding me? But he had to take a bus out there to North Carolina where they were filming to do that scene where they're playing on stage, because his doctor told him he couldn't get on a plane, in the condition he was in recovering from his cancer treatment. So crazy, but he was so interested in being a part of that show and getting his music out there that he saw that opportunity, he seized it. So he and Kelly rode, I guess, on a brand new bus, new ventilation and everything, out to North Carolina from California.
From my recollection of the story, he was saying they hired 2 drivers and they drove from California to like South Carolina or North Carolina, and basically went, filmed, and came back and basically slept on the bus, I guess, I would assume.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, that's...
From the way that he puts it, it does make a lot of sense, because the album definitely needed a kick because it was released while he was still in the hospital.
Yeah.
and he wasn't able to tour it.
Right. So he and the others promoting his album were at a disadvantage. So I think they were looking at things that they could do, and who better than One Tree Hill to promote music among their target age audience, you know?
Of course. Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. That was like the perfect show for him to be a part of, especially for that specific genre of music. Have you seen that episode of One Tree Hill?
I've seen that clip, and I'm going to include it in the show notes, but I have not seen that
Okay.
episode. I've never seen an episode of One Tree Hill, to be truthful, but I've seen every single episode of Beverly Hills 90210 and Melrose Place, and they were the pioneers of bringing new artists in on episodes a few times a season to expose
that's
them to
great.
new audiences. So
I'm
One Tree
sure
Hill
that's-
took a note from Melrose Place and 90210.
Yeah, they extended an olive branch, if you will.
Yeah.
To give you a tree reference. But I've never seen the show, but I absolutely love this episode because it's just so easy to make fun of, but it's so I don't know, man. I was watching the show, and like Andrew is great in it, and that's the reason why I watched it.
Yeah.
But watching that show, especially out of context, is hilarious. You know, because you're just like, everybody's so mad at everybody. Why? You know,
Yeah.
like, why is everybody so upset? When he plays Dark Blue in that episode, it is one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen. Like, ever. And it has nothing to do with Dark Blue. It just has to do with the episode and how everything is so hilariously intense on that show. And they decided to put Dark Blue in the background of it. And and so like you see this guy that's like super old, and he's just like, you know,
Yeah.
for 50 years I've been struggling with juvenile diabetes, and things have been kind of crazy since Margaret died, and she hasn't given me my insulin. And then like while he's talking, it cuts to like broken glasses, and then it pans up and it's Minkus from Boy Meets World, and then he picks up the glasses and like puts them on or whatever, and he doesn't say it, but you can see it in his face. He's like, my glasses. He doesn't say it, but it looks like he's saying it. And then it cuts to like some all this while Dark Blue is playing, all
Right.
this while you know, and so the power lines, you know, and all this, and like it cuts to another guy being like, Jennifer, why? And it's just like, what is going on, man?
So you can imagine my confusion when I just watched a 2.5 minute clip.
Yeah.
And all the things you just described, exactly my thoughts and my feelings when I was watching. I'm just like, what is going on? And why is this
Yes.
song playing right now?
Exactly.
And then it gets to
Yes.
at the end of the clip, it gets to him. Finally, they're at the concert. And it's,
Oh, that's the best. And everybody has their Motorola Razr phones up.
yeah, and they're waving
Oh
them
my
in the
gosh,
air.
it's so great.
Yeah.
Like there's like one like rich kid in the back with a sidekick. Like, oh man, what's like
Put that clip in a time capsule and
Yes.
let's watch it in 20 years and see how well it ages.
I mean, it didn't age well already.
No, it's
Like
only
the,
been-
the thing that aged well was Dark Blue. Like
Right,
that's
right.
pretty much it.
That's it,
And him
but
playing
yeah.
the mixtape, I guess. But
Yeah. And I didn't see the mixtape clip, but I'll obviously when I do an episode on mixtape, I'll be checking out that clip. But
yeah,
I still will
it's-
not watch the full episode though. I can't commit to it.
I mean, it's not great. I mean,
Yeah.
unless you're into that stuff, you know, of course.
Right.
Everybody likes what they like, but it's not my thing.
Like I said, I've watched shows that probably had the same look and feel at some
Of
point.
course. Yeah.
But but out of context, I was just like, what is going on? This doesn't fit. It doesn't make any sense. But
Yes.
I'm sure if you watched a 90210 episode from 1995, you would say the same thing to me. So
Yeah. You're like, why is Oingo Boingo in this?
Yeah.
Like,
hey, that was 80s.
yeah.
I'm not that old.
Yeah, which is why it's weird.
Right. I'm going to throw an artist at you. Are
Mm-hmm.
you familiar with the White Tie Affair and Chris Wallace?
That name sounds very familiar.
Very briefly, the White Tie Affair was a pop punk, more pop than punk, with a little bit of electronic. The stuff that was real popular at the same time Jack's Mannequin was coming around, Warped Tour circuit and all that, but with the electronic stuff. So they were kind of making their way. They only ever released one album, and then Chris Wallace released some solo stuff.
Yeah.
He was the lead singer, but he released a handful of solo songs in 2020. One of the songs is called Elysian Park.
Okay.
Elysian Park, and he references Dark Blue in the chorus. And I'm 99% sure he's talking about Jack's Mannequin's Dark Blue, because
Yeah.
the lyrics are chasing waterfalls through Elysian Park, singing Dark Blue. Now I can't wait to run away with you. It's about him falling in love with his now wife
That's amazing.
and the time they spent together. So I thought that was so cool. I was, when I first heard the song last summer, I was like, oh, he's talking about Dark Blue, obviously, because he kind of came up with the same genre. They might know each other. I
In
don't know.
fact, as you were talking, I realized that's where I know the name from. I know that name because Andrew McMahon started an indie record label called something and cassette tapes, I believe.
Okay.
I can't remember. It was some sort of cassette tape reference.
Mm-hmm.
And the band that he signed was White Tie Affair.
Oh, wow.
That's why I know the name.
That's wild.
In fact, White Tie Affair opened for Jack's Mannequin when I saw them in Atlanta. So that is where I know that name from. I knew it was in my head, and I was like, why do I know that name?
I could easily imagine them opening for Jack's Mannequin, and that's why I figured they knew each other, and I knew that he was referencing Jack's Mannequin's Dark Blue. I saw them open for Secondhand Serenade right around 2008, which is how I learned about them. But I've been following Chris Wallace ever since. I love his stuff.
Yeah.
There's also a song by No Doubt called Dark Blue, back from 2000 on the Return of Saturn album. I'm sure one song has nothing to do with the other, but I thought I'd mention it because I feel like Gwen Stefani and Andrew McMahon have kind of taken similar paths in their music career. They started off in the punk scene, and then they kind of made their way up to, Gwen Stefani's straight up pop now.
Yeah.
But, Andrew McMahon isn't far off with his latest work. So more, they're both songwriters for their generation. They're both pop artists that came from those punk roots. So I just thought that was kind of cool. They both have a song called Dark Blue that again,
cool.
have no connection to each other except for that, except for the name.
Right.
All right. So a little bit of my final thoughts here. Considering this is Andrew's favorite song he's ever written, and it's a fan favorite at shows, I would say it's one of the crown jewels of his catalog. It's one of his more universal sounding songs. It has the piano and the guitar, but it has that undeniable catchy pop sound that would probably make it more accessible than the majority of their songs up to that point. And I think that songs like this paved the way for what he was going to do later on with his, Pop Underground EP and now his Wilderness stuff. I don't know what you think about that, but
yeah, I definitely agree with you there for sure.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts on the song as a whole?
It is the tent pole. If you were to pick one song from Everything in Transit, it is the tent pole song, where it kind of describes every feeling that record gives you. And that's why it's such a great song and will remain to stay great for the rest of his life and on.
I think no matter what he goes on and does, as many more great songs that he makes, you're right, that's going to be right at the top that people are going to remember him for.
Yeah, Dark Blue is going to live past Andrew McMahon.
So would you say that Dark Blue is one of your top Andrew songs of all time?
Yes, I would say that it's definitely one of the top songs, for sure.
Are there others that rate as highly? I mean, are there others that you like just as much?
There are. However, when it comes to Andrew's music, I always take everything by the album that it comes out in.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say I love Watch the Sky is a really big one for me. The mixtape is really great for me, mostly because of the lyrics in that song. Actually, the mixtape is probably the song that has everything I like about an Andrew McMahon song in it.
Thank you guys again for listening. Be sure to subscribe and rate the podcast so more people can find it. And post a comment on one of our socials. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you'd like to message me directly, email somethinginthewilderness@gmail.com. And if you'd like to follow in Mike Valdes' footsteps, please contact me and we'll see if we can get something set up. Of course, a big thank you goes out to Mike for discussing this song with me. What are you working on next, Mike?
Man, I have a lot that I'm working on. So I have an album that's out. It's called Dreamer. You can listen to that on Spotify and on Apple Music, everywhere that you listen to music. It's under my band name, Mike Valdes and the Noise, and that is Valdes with an S, so Valdes and the Noise. I also have a podcast as well. I love talking about childhood and nostalgia and all that kind of stuff. And also the little gimmick that I do with the podcast is we review a box of cereal on every episode.
I think that's hilarious.
It's a very like childlike thing. So it's called Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes. And it is just about childhood. We talk about music. We talk about the things that we loved, because I think that who you wanted to be as a child, it mirrors who you are now in so many different ways. And I love going through that journey with people. You know, some of the people that I've talked to are actors. You know, I have some friends that I've worked with who, you know, have recently been on shows like Westworld and things like that. I talk to a lot of comedians, and I talk to a lot of singer-songwriters. The good thing, I guess, about me being in 3 or 4 different pools in the entertainment business is that I have a lot of different friends. So I get to pick everybody's brain a little differently on that show. If you like that stuff, if you find me even the least bit entertaining, I would love it if you subscribe to that podcast. And other than that, you can find everything else on whoismikevaldes.com. And that you'll find my music, you'll find comedy clips, you'll find the podcast, the link to the podcast, and also my Instagram as well, which is at Mike Valdes.
I noticed you put up some new videos recently, so I've been checking them out. And
yeah.
And I just gotta add on there that what I've listened to of your podcast, I really enjoy. It's a fun listen, and so I definitely recommend it.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah. I love that. And yeah, I also have original music and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I kind of, my Instagram is a little all over the place, because sometimes I'm playing very vulnerable music, and then sometimes I'm just making fart jokes, but it's all the same guy, man. We're all different colors in one person, I guess.
Well, again, Mike, thanks so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was an honor. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was great. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.